Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. We have not done this in quite a long time. I have been just haven't been feeling fantasy football. It was honestly being transparent with you guys. It was a lot of it felt just what's the word I want to say? It just felt like there was too many people in this hemisphere trying to say the same things over and over again. And this just got to the point where it was just, overwhelming. It just felt like, man, why do people want to listen to our podcast when they got about 1,120,000,000,000,000 other podcasts? But at the end of the day, man, I see that a lot of you guys still come back to us and you guys still appreciate the work we put in. So why not give you guys our best and just go from there and see where it takes us. Um, the biggest thing that I regret not being able to do is show you guys my draft. Um, from this year, you guys know our main league is a Show Me League. One second, I guess I gotta share the post to our Facebook group, and then we'll go from there. Let's do that. All right, nice. Posted. All right, once again, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for following us. Thank you for supporting us over the years. Like I was saying earlier at the beginning of this cast, I sort of just fell out of it. It just felt like it was way too many people in this hemisphere trying to, be fantasy football analysts and had their opinions, and it just felt like these other people were getting a lot more, you know, let me say yeah, they were just getting appreciated a lot more. But at the end of the day, man, I appreciate you all that support us, who come through and ask questions, who continuously, trust us to help you win your fantasy football leagues. We've been doing this for a while. We haven't done this in a long time where we go down and just break down each game and just talk about what stands out. We had a lot of fun things happen, and then we had a lot of frustrating things happen this past week. One of the most frustrating things, easily was the injury. The injury bug has happened again, and we're going to get a few updates here. What I was saying earlier is I sort of regret not being able to show you guys my fantasy team and who I drafted this year in the Show Me League, or some people call it the League of Records, whatever else the case may be. But let's see. We'll go to Show Me, and I'll show you guys my team. This team actually lost this week. He's saying it's not over yet. It's definitely over. Justin Fields is not going to go bonkers to get me up to 130 some points. But if it was, man, it would be fun. But just to give you guys some insight on some of the players that I liked, or some of the players that I drafted this year. I know you guys can't see my screen right now, but I have Justin Fields starting. I do have Jaden Daniels on my bench. As you guys know, he was hurt this week. Saquon Barkley, I kept him for my first. Jonathan Taylor, Calvin Ridley, who is heading to my bench. That's one of the frustrating players I was talking about. Ted McMillan, I just traded him last week. I traded Junkins. And the reason I traded Junkins, let me say this, guys, is my own personal reason. Like, I just, as a father of three daughters, I just don't get down. I just don't get down with the clowns. You know, I didn't look too much into that whole case. I know like he was beaten, like they got in a fight, an altercation. I don't think any man should be putting his hands on a woman. I know that happens a lot in the NFL, CTA, and everything else. But I ended up trading him away. Got Ted McMillan out of it. Ted McMillan has been looking really good. He hasn't had that like super extremely breakout game, but he's looking really good. I think he'll heat up. We have Mr. Johnson himself with the New Orleans Saints. Marvin Harrison, who I think you guys should be trading for. I think he's finally catching on, and I have some insight on him as well that you guys probably missed out in the last few weeks. I got P. Romo. He let me down last week. I still ended up getting the win, but he came back pretty strong this week. He's our kicker for Atlanta Falcons. And then Indy defense. We got Jaden Daniels on the bench. We got Trevion Henderson on the bench. We have Travis Etienne on the bench, who I regret not playing this week. Tajay Spears, we're holding out on him. Torrey Holton, who will probably drop this week to pick up another receiver. Debo Samuel sitting on the bench as well. And then Orlando Gatson, tight end for the Los Angeles Chargers, who I thought was going to be a big pickup. But the thing is, with them losing Joe Alt, their left tackle, their offensive line is pretty much depleted at this point in time. What that means is when you don't have an offensive line, that means your tight ends have to stay in to help block. So now we're going to see more Keenan Allen again, and Quentin Johnson and or Aronde Gadsden will have to stay inside and continue to help block and keep the pressure off of the quarterback. All right, so now let's get into these game breakdowns. Hopefully, you guys can hear me clearly. If you can, just make a comment for me, and let's go. We're just gonna go step by step. We do have two games tonight. Like I said, I got Justin Fields starting for the Jets, and then you got the Dolphins. Then you got the Bengals and Broncos. I know a lot of people are depending on the Broncos defense to bring them home a victory tonight, so we'll see how that works. I believe in my boys. We definitely need this win. Jake Browning looked pretty bad last week, but let's get into it. All right, first game of the week, we did have the Cardinals and the Seahawks. That was last Thursday. Everything was pretty much straightforward here. What I do want to hit on is, like I was talking about earlier with Marvin Harrison Jr., the things that you're not seeing with Marvin Harrison Jr. First of all, Arizona Cardinals, they're not a popular team, so you're not going to really hear about them in the news. You're not going to really see a lot of their highlights and everything else. Most of the time when these sports companies or these analysts go over these the Cardinals games, they just graze over it, and then they don't really get into depth of what's really happening. Something that happened in week one that really caught my eye with Marvin Harrison is that Kyler Murray is looking for him in the red zone. It's not just all right, we're going to try to get him the ball here and there. No, Kyler Murray literally has plays. Their offense has a plays lined up for Marvin Harrison in the end zone. Week one, Marvin Harrison had a potential touchdown. The defender made a good play on it, and it got knocked out of Marvin Harrison's hands. But it was right there for the taking. And then this week we finally see Marvin Harrison get over his hand-me-downs, we're gonna call them. And he finally caught a touchdown pass, man. He had 6 receptions in this game for 66 yards, and then 1 tutty buddy. We love to see it. 10 targets, and Trey McBride had 11 targets. That lets you know that he's still the alpha dog on his team. He's still going to get a lot of targets. They want to get him ramped up, and they want to get him and Kyler Murray's connection flowing because they need it if they want to make the playoffs this year. They already lost a huge piece on their in the running back room, and now Trey Benson, he's looking decent, 4.4 yards average this last game, but they need to get that connection going if they want their offense working. Teams are already biting down on Trey McBride. He's getting a lot of targets and receptions, but only 52 yards. They need somebody that can stretch that field and get the ball in the end zone. Marvin Harrison, I'm telling you guys, put in the cheap trade. The window for the cheapest of trades would have been last week and the week before when everybody was down on him. Now that he has his touchdown, he's going to be looked at more of a, moderate to high end receiver 2, maybe a low end receiver 1. So just throw a couple of names out there and see if you can trade for him. I don't think you'll be hurting if you do. Also, looking on the Seattle Seahawks side, we have, nothing really new to see. You do have Jackson Smith-Njigba. He had him 4 for 79. What what a great pickup he was if you were able to get him in the 4th or 5th round of your drafts. He's been giving you some return on investment for sure. You do have the rookie tight end who had 4 targets, Elijah Arroyo. But other than that, as far as passing goes, Torrey Horton had a pretty down game. I am big on Torrey Horton. I think he will will surpass Cooper Kupp eventually. Cooper Kupp had 5 targets in this game, 4 receptions for 26 yards, 6.4 average. That lets you know that Cooper Kupp isn't getting down the field very far. So I think Torrey Horton is going to eventually take into that receiver 2 role like he's been doing. But I may drop him this week. If you guys have the extra room, it wouldn't hurt to pick him up. Kenneth Walker had a great game. Zach Charbonnet came back, and he ended up getting the tutty buddy. So not much to see in that game for the Seahawks side. But like I said, I did want to hit on Marvin Harrison. This next game, we had the game in Germany this week, the early game. Hopefully you guys didn't mess up and not set your lineups. But, man, did we have a great game. It ended up coming down to the wire. Aaron Rodgers, you cannot rely on him in fantasy. That first week was an outlier. He was balling. But now Aaron Rodgers, he spoke about how he was excited to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers in this offense. And I think I understand why. Aaron Rodgers understands he's no longer the younger Aaron Rodgers. He just needs to get the job done. And that's what he's doing in Pittsburgh nowadays. He's not forcing these deep balls. He's not forcing, those Aaron Rodgers-esque throws where he's sidearming it and trying to fit into these super tight pockets. He's just getting the job done. And that's what you're seeing in fantasy as well. These last few weeks, I think he's had 13 and 14 points. Nothing to write home about, nothing that's going to win you a week either. But he's just been consistent and he winning games. Once again, he did it again. He threw for 200 yards, 1 touchdown, and they end up winning 24-21. They get into the red zone. Now, I do want to talk about this next person, Kenny Gainwell. Kenneth Gainwell. Guys, I was actually big on Kenneth Gainwell 2 years ago when he got drafted by the Eagles. I thought he had a little spunk to him, but obviously they ended up bringing in Saquon Barkley in and, some other names, and he wasn't able to really get his chance. Now in Pittsburgh, with the injuries happening, we're seeing Kenny Gainwell. He had 19 carries this past weekend for 99 yards. For those people that have that 100-yard kicker, that 100-yard bonus in your fantasy leagues, we've been seeing this more and more this year. And I don't know why. It's sort of fishy, but that they hit the 99-yard mark right there on the cusp, and they can't get that extra yard just to kick in that 100-yard bonus. Some leagues they give 3-4 extra points for that 100 yards, and I keep seeing it over and over again. These running backs will get to 99 yards, and that's it. But on top of that, he did score 2 tutties, man. You love seeing that. Kenny Gainwell was getting the job done in the red zone. And, for a smaller running back that could get the job done in the red zone, that's some cash money right there. He's already quick. He's already fast. Now, will this continue to last once they get their starters back? We shall see. A lot of people were burnt because they didn't announce that their starter would be out until the game was about to start. I think you only had like 30 minutes before the game started. That's when they announced it. So that burnt a lot of people. 1 second here, guys. I'm trying to pull up some more information for you guys. Let's see. I'm actually looking for the exact time they announced him being out. Hey, he's already picked up, man. So let's see. They announced Jaylen Warren was going to be out a day ago. So right around this time, like 30 minutes before the kickoff, if you weren't paying attention, especially it was already an early morning game, then you were pretty much screwed. And that's what happened, man. So my recommendation is whenever you have a player playing in the earlier games, if you don't trust yourself getting up in the morning, just take them out and don't take the chance. You'd rather have the points than lose out on the points, because Kenny G got in and he had a phenomenal game. He ended up scoring, let's see here. Kenny G had 31 points, man. What a monster. I have him in my Dynasty League, and I actually had him in because Kenny Gainwell this is not just a 1 week thing. Like these last couple of weeks, Kenny Gainwell has been scoring touchdowns in the red zone for the Steelers. Week 2, he had, let's see, week 3. Yeah, week 3, he had a touchdown. He scored 9 points there because he didn't get that many carries. And then he's been involved in the offense ever since. He's getting receptions. He's getting targets. He's becoming that do-it-all kind of running back. He's only 5'9", 200 pounds. So he's a smaller guy. But if you go back and look at his draft profile when he came out of Memphis, a lot of teams were saying just because he's smaller, but he can still get the job done. He's really quick, he's agile, and he can hit the hole. So that's somebody you could keep an eye on. They do have a bye week coming up in week 5, so maybe you could just wait on them. If you have the extra space, you could put a waiver in. But the thing is, Jaylen Warren is still the starter, and Jaylen Warren looked really good in week 3. So you just hold off on Kenny G. Other names to talk about, Caleb Johnson, I think he's going to be buried. Let's talk about this Caleb Johnson situation, guys. I know a lot of people drafted him pretty high because they thought that he would eventually take over Jaylen Warren's position. And, I mean, we all fall into that trap. You hear it from all these different fantasy football analysts. NFL analysts think the same thing. But sometimes you got to look back on the history of a team and how they operate. Pittsburgh Steelers is a team that has usually or normally taken their time getting rookie running backs or younger running backs into the fold. They usually build up one of the running backs and let that rookie sit behind the veteran running back. I mean, if you look at it, Jaylen Warren for the longest had to sit behind Najee Harris. And then you can keep going further and further back on previous histories of their running backs. They hardly ever just have, even though they've taken running backs early, but it took them time to get into that role, especially with their coaching staff. So Caleb Johnson, I'm not sure if you'll ever get any kind of return on investment from him this season. Now it will take more injuries. I don't think Jalen Warren's going to be that banged up, and if he is, you see Kenneth Gainwell is going to move into that RB2 role or into that RB1 role, and Caleb Johnson will just be backup. And they also brought another running back, another veteran running back up. The thing is, Pittsburgh isn't playing with rookies. They want to win games. They want to make the playoffs. Their division is wide open, especially with the injury to Lamar Jackson that we'll talk about here shortly. You can't beat this right now. So I would try to go after Kenneth Gainwell, if anything else, before I would Caleb Johnson. Now, do you drop Caleb Johnson? Obviously not, because you put so much investment, you made such an investment in him. But maybe try to make a trade. Maybe try to get a lesser player, or maybe a receiver that can help you, or maybe a player that hasn't blown up yet. All right, now looking at Minnesota side at the running backs, Jordan Mason, 16 carries, 57 yards. He obviously didn't put up those numbers like he did last week, which everybody was super ecstatic about. But at the same time, he didn't just kill you like a lot of running backs did, like we'll get into this week. But the running back to have this week for the Minnesota Vikings was Xavier Scott. I wrote an article about him last week and how he could be a turning point for the Minnesota Vikings. He could be a difference maker because he's so quick and he's so fast. He was on their kickoff return team, and he's worked himself up from nothing. Now, I wrote in the article that the way that Minnesota's going to plan to use him is get him out in the open field and letting him use his burst. That's what happened. They used him as more of a receiving back, and he ended up having 6 receptions for 43 yards, and he ended up getting a touchdown as well. So just a name to keep an eye on going forward, Xavier Scott. With this performance, I can only imagine that Minnesota is going to look to utilize him a little bit more. Jordan Mason only 3.6 yards a carry. I don't think Xavier Scott's going to cut into Jordan Mason's carries, obviously, but I think he will get more playing time as it goes ahead because he's a weapon they can use. Um, Big things. Jordan Addison came back. He had 4 receptions for 114 yards. Man, let me tell you guys, he had an 81-yard reception and he just couldn't finish the play. He was about, I would say, probably 5 to 7 yards away from scoring a touchdown and just making it that much sweeter of a comeback week for him. But he ended up getting tackled. I think it was like the 7 yard line. If he could have just broke that last tackle or just lunged in, it would have been so beautiful. But you love seeing that he came back to that kind of, with that kind of tenacity. Jordan Jefferson, I don't. I know the debate right now is who's the best receiver in the NFL, Jordan Jefferson or Jamar Chase. And I'm sorry, man. Jordan Jefferson is proving he is quarterback proof. Like it doesn't matter who his quarterback is, he can still get the job done. Carson Wentz, he was a phenomenal backup quarterback. He still had 10 receptions, 126 yards with Carson Wentz at quarterback, and that's off 11 targets. That means there's only one miss. And I don't know if that was a missed target, an accuracy issue, or just a drop. But at the end of the day, man, Jordan Jefferson, hands down to me, is just that dude. Man, he's a dog. He's getting the job done. I don't think it's really a debate because if we look at Chase, man, it just we'll see what he does tonight. But if we go back in history and we see that Chase with Browning last year, what they end up doing, it was ugly. It was terrible. So we're gonna see what he could do this week with Browning. Last week was pretty bad as well. So let's see if it carries over. But he is going against Patrick Surtain, so we'll say that. Other than that, I think that's really it for this game. We did see TJ Hawkinson come out. That's it. Let's see what we got here. Let's keep rolling. All right. Commanders and Falcons game. Need some water here soon. All right, so Commanders and Falcons game. We didn't have Jaden Daniels in this game. We had Marcus Mariota again, and the Commanders end up taking another loss because of it. Marcus Mariota, he threw 2 touchdowns, but he did throw a interception and some bad timing. The thing is, Chris Rodriguez, I keep writing about Chris Rodriguez and how you should consider picking him up. This guy starts off the game extremely hot. Like he took a super long run at the beginning of the game, 48 yards. And then after that, he just sort of disappears. And it's just like, does he take a couple of hits and he's like, all right, I'm good. I got my yardage. Because he started off really hot. I was like, oh, shoot, this is going to be a good game for him. And then after that, it just leveled off. It was just like, what happened? Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, he still only had 47 yards himself. They averaged, Chris Rodriguez averaged 8.4 yards a carry, and Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt had 6.7. So it makes you wonder why not just continue to run the ball. I want to go back and watch that game. If you guys don't have this and you are serious about trying to win your leagues and you want to watch some of the games, see these players and what really happened, the NFL app is perfect. I think it's like $9, and you can get NFL Red Zone with that. To me, NFL Red Zone is worth that price anyways because I don't even care about watching all the games. So I don't get NFL ticket. I just get the NFL Red Zone and watch that on Sundays. Now it burns me when Broncos are playing and I can't get their games, but it is what it is. I want to go back and watch why they stopped running the ball because it looks like they were dominant on the ground and they just stopped it. Debo Samuel's in this game. I actually ended up sitting him because of last week what happened with Marcus Mariota. I was thinking in my head, and I also heard on NFL channel they were like, well, Debo Samuel is the only weapon this week. You should consider him. Now, it wasn't looking good for Debo until the very end of the game when they were trying to make this comeback. Debo caught a touchdown at the very end of the game, and that helped his fantasy points out a lot. I think before that, he was only sitting at like 8 points. So I was looking good until that very end, and I'm happy because I want to see Debo. But we are getting Jaden Daniels back next week, which is going to be phenomenal for Debo, guys. If you can get your hands on Debo, go grab him. We already talked about how they brought Debo Samuel in because he fits that scheme or that kind of throws that Jaden Daniels likes to make in down the slot. So I would love to keep Debo Samuel. Let's see. Other than that, we did see Luke McCaffrey make some good plays. He had a touchdown in this game. I wouldn't really step into him just yet. Terry McLaurin is going to be out obviously for a while, so you could look at Luke McCaffrey, but I think that's just too risky. Um, Atlanta's side of the ball, but John Robinson still getting the job done. Just a monster, man. But John, we're talking about 4 receptions, 106 yards, and then on top of that, 17 carries for 75 yards and a tutty. Just a monster, man. But John Robinson is a complete alien. I wanted him in our show me league, but I didn't know the person that had him wasn't going to keep him because we were in the keeper league, and I had the potential to get the first pick, and I could have got Bajan, but I thought he was going to be kept, so I didn't want to use it and then keep Saquon. But man, if I could rewind time. But John Robinson is a beast, straight stud. Kyle Pitts, man, Kyle Pitts has been taking off, guys. Let's look at these. I'm gonna pull up Kyle Pitts really quick. Let's see. We have Kyle Pitts. So this week he had 5 targets, 5 receptions for 70 yards and a touchdown. Prior week, he had 6 targets, 4 receptions. Before that, 5 targets, 4 receptions, and before that, 8 targets and 7 receptions. Man, we're getting some good looks with Kyle Pitts. For those who finally waited for this year, is this the year? Is this the year? This might be the ceiling we're about to hit with Kyle Pitts. This might be your best season coming into it. And maybe he's figuring something out. He got the touchdown this week and he actually snagged it off of somebody. It was a beautiful, beautiful grab. So, I mean, we're getting some Kyle Pitts love. Drake London being Mr. Consistent. Drake London just reminds me so much of a Mike Evans. He's not as muscular as Mike Evans, like that thickness, but he is, man. He just tall, lanky, and just gets the job done, man. He's just that dude. So, not much else to see there. Let's get into this next game. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me get some water. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, we're back. All right, so getting into our next game, let's get here. Let's see. We have Bills and Saints. Man, what a blowout this game was. Psych. It was actually not a blowout. The Saints were in this game late. And the only reason they got pulled away is they sort of got burned out. But there was the turning point in this game was going back. There was you'll see it, you can see it on the screen right here. Chris Olave towards the end of this game, I think it was like the third or fourth quarter, they tried to do a reverse with Chris Olave, and he threw the ball up, and he was trying to throw the ball to Spencer Rattler, and one of the Bills defenders just jumps up with one hand like it's Madden and intercepts the ball. And it was just one of those things. That was the turning point in this game. Up to that point, they were battling. They were fighting. And I think the game, it was like 19-24 at that point. So then the Bills drive down and score another tutty there. And it was just like out of reach at that point. But the Saints keep fighting. Spencer Rattler, honestly, I mean, he's getting the job done. He's not, I can't say he's getting the job done and winning wise. They haven't won a game, but he's not the problem. That's the crazy part about the Saints right now. And it's sort of sketchy because it's like, what are the Saints going to really do at this point? When you have a quarterback that's not the problem, he's doing a decent job, but you're not winning. Now the thing is, Spencer Rattler isn't throwing the ball downfield. He's being more conservative. He only averaged what, it was 4.7 yards a throw. He did throw for a touchdown in this game, and unfortunately for a lot of us who have Juwan Johnson, he disappeared in this game. I had a feeling he would. The Bills are good at putting so much pressure on a team that you got to leave your tight ends in to block. And this is what we saw in this game. Juwan Johnson only had 3 targets. They pretty much took him out of the equation and made Spencer Rattler make throws to other receivers, which worked out for Chris Olave. He finally got in the end zone. But other than that, Chris Olave had a bad game. And bad in fantasy means, like he had 3 receptions for 20 yards and a touchdown off of 6 targets. But obviously, if you took him pretty high, you're not getting your return on investment there. And you're a little concerned. I think Juwan Johnson will be back next week with some better scores for sure. But other than that, the Bills did a good job. Let's see who we got. All right, the Giants next week. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty comfortable about putting Juwan Johnson back in your lineups. It was just this week was a bad matchup. Bills, same Bills. Josh Allen's going to ball out. He's doing his thug thizzle, trying to get his team to the Super Bowl. And I mean, the way they're playing, man, undefeated. Kansas City looks really, really, really open right now. Looks like you could beat them. The Chargers are falling apart. They're getting beat up left, right, and up the center. Obviously, Lamar Jackson just went down with Baltimore. So, I mean, that the AFC is open for the Bills taking. If they can step up and just finish the job, I don't see why they can't get to the Super Bowl this year. Now, they will have to either play the Eagles or some other team or, maybe even Tampa Bay, but it's going to be tough. So we'll see. That should be a good Super Bowl. But right now, I'm putting my money on the Bills getting to that Super Bowl. I'm not putting any money, but yeah. Nothing to see there. Actually, I want to go back. Let's look at Keon Coleman. Still not much anything. 4 targets. The thing about the Bills is that they talk about this all the time that they're everybody can eat kind of offense. So it's not going to be this person is going to get hyper targeted or we're going to overuse this person. If it's not Josh Allen or James Cook, man, you're pretty much out of the running. You're going to be just shooting yourself in the foot trying to start players. Like Khalil Shakir, he had a really long touchdown for 43 yards in this game. And I mean, if you don't get that every week, you're starting Khalil Shakir, and let's see his previous weeks, how many points he put up. 1 second here. Khalil Shakir is one of those best ball players where you draft him in best ball, and he can step up every once in a while to get you some points. Let's see. So week 3 against Miami, Shakir had a touchdown in that game as well, 14 points. New Orleans, he had the lone touchdown, like I said, and he had 17 points there. But week 2, only 2 points, and then week 1, 12.4. So, I mean, that's a good receiver too, return on investment. So you do have that going. But that's about it. Let's see. Keon Coleman, you could drop. He's not doing much of anything right now. And then Dalton Kincaid had a touchdown this game. So let's keep rolling. I'm trying to keep this under 45 minutes, so we're going to speed it up here. Let's see. Browns and Lions. Not too much happened there. Quinshon Judkins, like I said, man, I traded him, but he's looking really good, consistent. 2 touchdowns in 2 weeks, 82 yards. He's getting the job done, man. He looks good as a running back. Do I regret trading him? No. I guess I stand by my values, so it is what it is. Amon-Ra, still a monster. 7 receptions off of 7 targets for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. Man, you love having Amon-Ra on your team. Jameson Williams. Now let's talk about this really quick, and I'll move to the next game. 1 second. Jameson Williams in this game had 2 possibly big plays that were missed. One, Jared Goff sort of overthrew him, and another one he dropped. But if he would have caught either one of those passes, he could have got upfield and probably scored a touchdown on at least one of them. This is the concern with Jameson Williams, even coming into the draft this year, is just trying to, knowing when to play him and when to sit him is going to be hard because you'll have these down weeks where his floor is like this. 2 receptions for 40 yards. But then you have those ceilings where if you'd have caught those 2 passes and took them to the house, that'd have been 120 yards and a touchdown. Then you're like, oh man, receiver 1 numbers. I love it. It's it's so inconsistent. It's hard to tell with him, in the matchups and everything else. So that I do want to say that to make you feel a little bit better if you took Jameson Williams, that it was potential for a lot more points out there. It just they missed. They missed on it. Other than that, Browns, Joe Flacco, man, I just don't know. I think it's only a matter of time before we see Dylan Gabriel take over. I know a lot of people want to see Secure or Sanders step in. We know better. That team ain't about to let him do that. So they're gonna put Dylan Gabriel in. And I'm being honest, guys, I was a big fan of Dylan Gabriel coming out of Oregon. But I'm not here to hate on anyone. We'll see what happens. I just don't see how it can get any better. Jerry Judy, 9 targets, only 3 receptions. I don't know what's going on with Jerry Judy, but it's not. This ain't it. Isaiah Bond is somebody to keep an eye on. I've been seeing him week in and week out, starting to get more and more looks. He had 3 receptions for 58 yards in this game. He might be somebody you need to go fly under the radar and grab before your lead mates grab and just hold to see if he becomes consistent. Especially if they make a change to Dylan Gabriel. The rookies usually try to come in and start making those big throws like we saw with Jackson Dart. Harold Fanning sort of disappeared in this game as well. 6 targets, but he only had 2 receptions for 24 yards, so 4 points of PPR. Other than that, it's nothing else to see on that offense, man. I'm staying away from it unless it's Judkins or, like I said, we could grab Isaiah Bond. Let's see, Panthers and Patriots. Man, Bryce Young. I think the Panthers are so close to just being done with Bryce Young and trying to go in a different direction. Getting them a new quarterback, I think is going to be imperative going forward. I don't know, man. I even watched some of the Carolina games, and it's just so dull, man. It's just like nothing's happening. They brought in Ted McMillan, and T Mac, excuse me, it's just been looking good, man. He's looked great. He looks like a veteran out there. I actually traded Junkins for him, and I think it's just gonna get better. But Bryce Young, he just can't get the job done. I just don't know what it is, man. He's not running. Maybe he just needs to go out and just relax and just let it loose, man. Have a little bit of fun and just run with it. We got Drake May. Drake May has been QB1 all season. Whoever had Drake May and drafted him and took that chance to see if he could follow up for season 2, you're getting rewarded. Drake May has been phenomenal, man. He's making some dope throws, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's running. He ran for a touchdown, 11 yards on that. He's just putting up good numbers for you. Travion Henderson had a good touchdown in his game off the goal line. He's still not biting into Ramondre Stevenson's workload like we want to see, but he is getting more carries than Antonio Gibson. So there is that. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Stephon Diggs had a pretty decent game. He did have a long 33-yarder, so there is that. Hunter Henry continues to be consistent. If Hunter Henry's still out there in your leagues, guys, it's time to pick him up if you haven't already. Let's see, Ted McMillan, 4 receptions, 62 yards. And that's pretty much it there. Chuba Hubbard, yeah. Oh, we're looking at Trevor Etienne getting more carries. So that's somebody to keep an eye on as well, but nothing else to really see there. Let's get to our next few games. Chargers and Giants. What we were talking about earlier with the Chargers, they just lost another offensive lineman. If you don't know, they're at the beginning of the season, they lost their superstar left tackle, and now they just lost the backup to their left tackle, Joe Alt, in this game. I'm not sure how bad the injury is for him yet, but that is alarming because now, Justin Herbert's going to be under a lot more pressure. As you can tell in this game, he threw 2 interceptions. This against New York Giants. And Brian Burns looked like a monster, man. Brian Burns, their rookie that they took at, pick 4 or something like that, or pick 3, was just all over Justin Herbert, man. He looked like a vet out there. He was just destroying the offensive line. Especially after Joe Alt went out, it was just like they were just having their way. Quentin Johnston is still just that dude. 13 targets, 8 receptions, 98 yards, and a touchdown. Hey, kudos to you guys who picked him up after week 1. You're getting the fruits of your labor, man. It's paying off. Keenan Allen quieted down a little bit with only 5 receptions, 37 yards. Arondé Gaston, like I was talking about earlier, he only got three targets in this game. And my biggest concern is that those tight ends are going to have to start staying in to help block now that they lost another left tackle. Let's see, Lab McConkey starting to disappear, 6 targets. And with Justin Herbert having to throw the ball a lot quicker, I don't think that helps out Lab McConkey at all. So I'm a little alarmed here. But if you could try to trade maybe Lab McConkey, it might be time to do that. But I don't know who would be willing to get him, who would be willing to take him. But you never know nowadays. Let's see. Maybe you're in a league with the Chargers fan. Yeah, Lab McConkey. It's not been looking too good. Week 1, 13 points. Week 2, 9. Week 3, 8. And now we're down to 2 points in week 4. And they have Washington next week. That's man, honestly, if it wasn't for the name and the draft capital you took, I mean, it took to get him in the fantasy football drafts, he would be on waivers easily. Lad McConkey would be sitting there on waivers and there wouldn't be nobody thinking about it. But it's the whole name value, with Lad McConkey, and well, maybe he'll pick it up, maybe he'll get it going. But what everybody tends to forget is last year when Lad McConkey was putting up those numbers, Quentin Johnson was not a shell of himself for what he is this year. He wasn't catching anything. He wasn't reliable, and they didn't have any other options out there besides Lad McConkey. So he was basically getting force fed the ball. Now they have Keenan Allen, they have Quincy Jenkins. I mean Quincy Jenkins. You want to say that Quentin Johnston, and you have other people stepping up. But Marion Hampton looked really good last week. I mean, this past week. So it's just one of those things where I just think Lad McConkey is going to be on the out here soon, and he's going to be pretty much droppable pretty soon. So other than that, we did have a big game coming out of Jackson Dart. He finally showed up, and he's the starter now for New York Giants going forward. There are trade rumors for Russell Wilson. How that impacts fantasy football, I don't think it does, because as we can see, even when Russell Wilson was a starter, it wasn't really like anybody was balling. Malik Neighbors had a big game last week, but before that, it was sort of quiet. So I don't think Russell Wilson's coming in and helping too many teams out that much to where it's fantasy implications. But Jackson Dart, man, 10 carries, 54 yards. He got the touchdown. Cam Scatterboo, man, that dude just runs so hard. And I told you guys, my biggest concern with Cam Scatterboo is how long can he survive. He took a pretty hard hit in this last game against the Chargers, and it looked like he didn't want the ball again after that for a little bit. He had to get his bearings back. But it's only so much you could take, especially on a long 16-week season, man. This dude just sacrifices his body on like almost every play. And I'm just like, man, I don't know, he's gonna last. But he looked good. He means 79 yards, no touchdowns. They kept giving him the ball in the red zone, and he was just going down. Like he couldn't break tackles. He couldn't hit a clean hole in the red zone. As soon as they wrapped him up, it was like he was going down. So there is that. Um, Theo Johnson had a touchdown in this game. Other than that, Malik Neighbors is the big news. He's gone for the season. If you have Malik Neighbors, you can post your team in our comments, or you can come into our free agency or our waiver wire ads, and just comment your team, and we can help maybe work a trade for you or figure out some fill-ins. That's heavy. A lot of people are taking Malik Neighbors in the second, some people in the first. And if you got him in the third, man, good on you. But he's a high pick, and now he's going for the season. Tore ACL, and it was just bad, man. If you go back and look at the play, you can see his knee just hanging or his leg just hanging, and he's like, man, those ligaments are done in that knee, man. You hate to see that on such a young stud like that, but it is football, so we got to go next man up. So we'll figure out something for you guys. Going to our next one. We're almost done here. Let's see. Eagles and Bucks. I mean, you saw what we're talking. There's a lot of smoke coming out of Philadelphia that AJ Brown might consider being traded. He's just tired of not getting the ball. I mean, 9 targets. He only had 2 receptions for 7 yards. That's not AJ Brown numbers. I don't know what's going on. Isn't Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback, man. It's not like he's inaccurate, but 9 targets, only 2 receptions is terrible. Dallas Goedert had the 2 easiest touchdowns of his career. One of them was just like a little hammy toss that you did in elementary school for a touchdown. And the other one was he was wide open. Saquon Barkley ended up getting in the end zone, but it was like if you didn't see the play, what happens is they got in a tush push formation. And I always wondered when they were going to do this, and they finally did it. They faked the tush push and then handed it off to Saquon going out left, and he scored a touchdown. It was a pretty play, but they still can't get him up and going. The thing is, you invest in these running backs not for the beginning of the season. You try to survive if you go running back heavy like I do at the beginning of the season. And then that back end of the season is when you see running backs really start getting loose. once defenses are banged up, teams are tired, they can't really stop the run as much. It's getting colder outside. That's when running backs take over. Right now, you're going to see a lot of higher receiving scores and on the ground. And Mecca Ibuka, man, just continues to impress. Just a stud, man. He had 10 targets, but he had 4 receptions, 101 yards, and a tutty. He took a 77-yarder to the house, man. It was just a super concentrated grab. He had defenders all around him. He locked in and caught the ball. Chris Godwin came back in this game. He had let's see, Chris Godwin had 10 targets. He only caught 3 of them for 26 yards. Him and Baker Mayfield will get their report back going. It's going to take a little bit of time, a couple of weeks. Chris Godwin didn't practice all off season, so they didn't get to really work together. They'll get it back going. Sterling Shepard had 4 targets in this game, didn't really step up and do too much. Other than that, nothing really to see there. Devontae Smith, only 2 receptions. The Eagles just aren't really throwing the ball downfield this year. Like, they've already won the Super Bowl. They're undefeated doing what they're doing. I don't see it changing much going forward, to be honest with you guys. So maybe you try to sell on a Devontae Smith, or you could hold off and maybe AJ Brown does request a trade and then they go and start using Devontae Smith more. But if anything, I would try to trade one of those players and see what I can get in return. Maybe you could get a Ted McMillan for name value, or maybe you could get somebody else. But let's get into the Texans and Titans. I need to rant. I'm gonna let the air out my chest, man. Calvin really is sitting on my bench for the rest of the season. I don't want to drop him because the potential is there, but this is terrible. This is one of the games I have marked to go back and watch from this past weekend because I need to know what's going on. Either Cam Ward just ain't it, or I don't know, or Calvin really just can't catch. But Calvin really in this game only had 3 targets. Alec Ananor, sorry if I butchered his last name, Ananor, had 7 targets, the rookie, but he only caught 2 of those for 44 yards. And Calvin really caught his two passes for 30 yards. It was terrible in a game that they were shut out in. So it makes you wonder, like, what happened in this game? Like, why couldn't they do anything? It's not like the Texans have been just shutting teams down. So it makes you wonder, like, what happened? Like, if we go back and look at the Texans scores, against the Jaguars, they held Jaguars scored 17, Buccaneers scored 20, and the Rams scored 14. So, I mean, maybe we got to start looking at Texans defense as better than what we were expecting. But the bright, the light at the end of the tunnel in this game was, one, Nico Collins continues to have better and better games with CJ Stroud, but Woody Marks came out of nowhere. Woody Marks is looking phenomenal. I tried to get my hands on him last week. He ended up catching a touchdown. He also ran for a touchdown this past week against Tennessee. He ended up taking an RB1 role almost. He had more carries than Nick Chubb, and I think going forward it's going to be his backfield. 17 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown. He caught 4 balls for 50 yards and a touchdown as well. Just phenomenal play from Woody Marks, man. My plan was last week, I'll tell you guys a secret. My plan was to trade Judkins and then grab Woody Marks off of the free agency or waivers. But the same person I traded Judkins to took Woody Marks in the waivers. It's sort of anyways, but I missed out there. Like I said, Calvin Ridley, man, you guys, I don't know. I gotta go before I give you guys any kind of insight on if you should drop them or hold them. I want to go look at that game and see what happened. But that can't happen again, man. I don't know. I wasn't really big on Cam Ward coming into the season. I keep questioning what is he really good at that made him that number 1 overall pick. So all rookies need time to grow. So I'll put it that there. Last few games, Colts versus Rams. This was a great game, man. They were battling. I was a little bit nervous about starting Jonathan Taylor in this game because obviously how the Rams have been shutting down running backs, and they did pretty much the same thing here. Jonathan Taylor was held to 76 yards. He did have a couple of catches for 20 yards. He had 5 catches for 20 yards. And there was a play where he was open for a touchdown, but they just had too much of a rush on Daniel Jones to get to him. I know a lot of people were like, "Uh-oh, are we back to the old Daniel Jones?" Because he did throw 2 interceptions in this game. One of those interceptions it was horrendous. It was ugly. He just sort of threw it up, and it was an easy interception. That's at the beginning of the game. So I don't know. Be cognizant there. I told you guys, Daniel Jones is one of those guys. Once you get going or you start trusting him, that's when he sort of disappears. Man, let's just all talk about the huge blessing that Puka Nacua is. This dude just really came out of nowhere the last couple of seasons and now just continues to be consistently a monster. Just a straight beast. Devontae Adams is still putting up good numbers, but Puka Nacua with 13 receptions, 170 yards, and a touchdown off of 15 targets. Matthew Stafford loves him some Puka, and he's going to keep feeding him, man. Puka, I choose you. They're going to keep rolling. Adonai Mitchell with the burning him, man. It burnt his team as well because that could have been at least a tie in the game. But Adonai Mitchell, man, they'll talk to him. He's young, but he really did miss out on the lone touchdown. He had the ball and he sort of let it go right at the 3 yard line and ended up going out of bounds. But hey, what can you do there? But hold on to the ball. Tyler Warren still beasting, 5 receptions, 70 yards. Uh, I traded for Tyler Warren in our dynasty league. Let's see, Jaguars and then Ravens. Let's see. Let's skip one. Ravens and Kansas City. This game was not what we were expecting it to be. We thought it was going to be a close game. Kansas City, Ravens went down the field and scored really quick. We was like, oh, Kansas City can't hold them. The next thing you know, Kansas City sort of locked in. You know, when you play in a video game, you sit up. That's what happened. And then they just started taking off on the Baltimore Ravens. And this game was not even as close as it looks right here on the scoreboard. The 37-20, it was actually a lot worse. Lamar Jackson went down in this game. And I want to see if there's any updates on Lamar Jackson's questionable return Sunday's game with a hamstring injury. So we're not sure what happened with Lamar there. And that hammy issue you don't want to see. But he did go out. Derrick Henry only had 8 carries in this game for 42 yards. Zay Flowers was having a good game till he just sort of shut down. Justice Hill had a long run. Rashad Bateman is droppable, guys. You can just leave him on waivers, especially with if Cooper Rush is going to be starting the next couple weeks. Patrick Mahomes just, man, 4 tutties, 270 yards. He was happy to get Xavier Worthy back. Hollywood Brown had a touchdown at the end of the game. Juju Smith-Schuster had a touchdown. Isaiah Pacheco had a touchdown. Man, it's just like these dudes are starting to hit their stride again. So Tyquan Thornton had his random touchdown of the week again. So quick game there. Nothing to talk about besides the Lamar Jackson injury. So be on the lookout for that. Let's see. We have Jaguars versus 49ers. Travis Etienne, easily one of my divas out of the draft. I got him in like the 11th or 12th round. You know, everybody gave up on him, but I saw it was a lot there. There's a lot of potential, especially if you go back from the offseason. That last game they played, Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne played in that one drive together in the last game. And after that, you didn't see either one of them again. That let me know right there, like, all right, Travis Etienne is their starter and he's just balling, man. 124 yards. He's like a Bucky Irving for the Jacksonville Jaguars. 124 yards, 1 tutty. He ended up having that's crazy. He didn't even get that many looks in the passing game this week. He only had 1 target. I mean, 2 targets and 1 reception. Um, Bashaw Tootin only had 4 carries, so he didn't really take over any more of the role. He had 1 target as well, so love seeing that there. Brian Thomas is starting to come out his shell a little bit. Brenton Strange once again does again 6 receptions, 45 yards. I mean, you'll take that at tight end. You'll definitely take that at tight end. Basul Tootin, other than that, Chris McCaffrey, 17 carries, 49 yards. He had 6 receptions for 92 yards and a touchdown. He's still putting up good numbers for you, but I would be really, honestly, guys, I would be really concerned with how he's being used, his rate that he's being used. That's a lot of, getting tackled and making plays on somebody that's already been banged up in the past. I can't tell you guys to trade him because, if he does end up staying together, I'll say this: trade for Brian Robinson just to be on the safe side. On the safe side, make sure you get Brian Robinson to protect your investment because you got to hedge it some way. It's just he's being utilized at such a heavy utilization rate. Brock Purdy, I mean, he put up decent fantasy football numbers, but he didn't look too hot either. He did throw 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And other than that, man, Jake Tunges, he ran in for an easy touchdown. Nothing to see there. Let's get to our last game. Packers and Bears, and then our Packers and Cowboys and Bears and Raiders. Ashton Jeanty finally had his coming out party. He looked phenomenal. Now the Bears are not their run defense is not the greatest. They've been giving up a lot of runs this year, but long runs. But Ashton Jeanty looked phenomenal. He had a 64-yard touchdown where he's breaking tackles, running people over. They still end up not winning this game. I'm sort of concerned with what the Raiders plan on doing if they don't start winning with Ashton Jeanty. Do you really want to continue running your rookie running back into the ground and let him get beat up, or do you want to go into next season and let him be fresh? He's already got his taste of the NFL, so something to keep an eye on, something to consider. I don't know. You already invested a higher round pick for him. So what do you do there? We got Brock Bowers at he had 5 receptions, 46 yards. He's come down to earth from last year. He's not getting as many looks. Geno Smith in this game threw another 3 interceptions. You know, they're not. I don't know. I think the Raiders are on the cusp of throwing in the season. If you got 3 or 4 more weeks of this kind of football, not being able to win games, and then it's just like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do next season? So then we might see more Raheem Mostert. We might see Ashton Jeanty take more of a backseat to try to conserve him to where they can fix up that offensive line, because that offensive line is still horrendous. Bears, Caleb Williams came back down to earth. He didn't do too much of anything this week. He ran 8 times, 13 yards. He got me beat in one of my leagues. Roma Dunze continues to impress. Cole Kmet. And then our last game until tonight's games, we have the Cowboys versus the Packers. This game right here ended up in the tie, but man, you talking about a quarterback shootout. Jordan Love threw for 337 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dak Prescott threw 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Dak Prescott did this after his number one receiver, CeeDee Lamb, went out. How can I stress this enough that he had his best game after his number one receiver went out? George Pickens looked phenomenal, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns. He beat me this week in Show Me League by himself almost. Jay Ferguson still looks great. Try to get your hands on Fergie Ferg. Green Bay, Josh Jacobs. Now, he did go down a little bit. Josh Jacobs did have an injury in this game, but he did come back. But he was grabbing at his knee. He was messing with his knee on the sidelines. Romeo Dobbs, 3 touchdowns, man. Come on. Off of 8 targets. Now, are you going to get that every week? No, but he is pretty much looking like one of Jordan Love's main weapons, especially in the red zone. Go out there and grab him. Other than that, guys, it's been a great cast. Glad to be back doing this with you guys. We'll do a waiver wire pickup and we'll go over some film probably Tuesday or Wednesday. Other than that, appreciate you support, appreciate the questions, and God bless. Peace. Boom.